Works, where Jolie is. That's actually the foyer of the Athenaeum, which is this concert hall. I thought perfect place for a cool, sort of, computer-driven, information-driven company. Because I wanted everything to be colorful and jolly, and not at all in any way dystopian. But it just got crazier and crazier doing what we were trying to do, because costumes which are quite extraordinary, wonderful things when you see the people in the streets and working. Carlo Poggioli, who had worked with me with Gabriele Pascuccio of Munchausen and other things, he had no money in the budget, but he found outside of Bucharest a market. It was a Chinese market where all this crap from China was sold, and you could buy fabric, man-made fabric that no human or man would ever want to put on its body, but you could buy it not by the kilo, I mean not by the yard, but by the kilo. Fantastic bulk buying. And so he bought all this weird stuff, and Matt Damon unfortunately had suits made that he had to wear. Kind of like old trim jeans where you sweated pounds off every day wearing these awful things. But he then, and that wasn't sufficient, so he got some plastic tablecloths and plastic shower curtains, and okay, we can turn those into coats and jackets, and on it went. So at every point we were just inventing, and it's actually very liberating. I mean, it's also hard work and you go crazy, but it's liberating because if it doesn't work, well, you can blame the fact you didn't have the money, so the weight of a big budget film is removed from your shoulder, and it's a matter of working with what you got and trying to make the best of it. And to me, I'm just delighted with it. It's things like on the street, the cars. Renault actually loaned us 15 Twizzys, which we had on the street, but that wasn't sufficient to fill up all the traffic space. And then I noticed at in the studio that there were these golf carts there. Great, we can use those. We slapped on some sidings, put a thing on top. They were taxis. And literally it was all thrown together as if you were a beginning filmmaker. So it was my chance to pretend I was young again.
The screenplay is Pat Russian, but it feels so much like your film. Is that because the screenwriter wrote it hoping that you would be the one that made it, or is it just because you've managed to put your stamp on the material?
It's a bit of both. When I first read the script, I thought, here's somebody who's seen every film I've ever made. And it sort of echoes all sorts of things. And I thought, this is my chance to be I could do Bergman's Fanny Alexander or Fellini's Amarcord, a compendium of everything I've done. And so that's why I was attracted to that, and I just thought there were wonderful ideas. I liked the characters. All of those things attracted me. What was interesting is because there was this short prep period, and I hadn't spent a year or two thinking about it and dreaming it. I shot the script. And then we spent the longest post-production I've ever spent. Not because of the script problems with cutting it as an effects problem, but all my films end up being chopped and moved around scenes in the final cut. This one was more an act of trying to save the life of the thing and triage. We threw it into triage, and the gangrenous leg came off, and the arm that was broken. We chopped that up. We chopped all the bits that after assembling the movie, I thought it just didn't work. We threw it all away, and then said, now what do we got here? And then we started working. Things came back. The odd limb was sewn back on, and ultimately made a Frankenstein monster that I was really delighted with. We chopped off the 3 last scenes as well, because unfortunately they were too Hollywood-like. I mean, wouldn't you want to go in a nice, snappy Jaguar Roadster with a kid and drive off in search of Bainsley on one of the 36,000 islands that may or may not exist on the planet? I didn't try it. We shot it because, no, it was one of those moments that, this is bullshit. This is utter If you're going to sell out, you sell out for more than $8.5 million. And I just said, we got to leave Cohen with a sense of dignity, a sense of something there where he feels in control of his life or not, as the case may be. And the scene with this, him allowing the sun to set was one of the things I had written into the script before. So I thought, end with something that I felt was poetic, Zen, fatalistic, submissive, Islamic, anything. But the one would not driving on the car looking for a girl on 36,000 islands.
Let's take some questions from the audience. If you put your hand up, give us a wave or whatever. Questions, observations, anything, then we'll get a mic to you. Yes, way up there.
Thank you. Absolutely loved the film. I'll take
What are you doing later?
I just had a question about the set. I love the use of the sound in the film, and it sort of presented itself to me as a character, but like in the first few scenes, and I thought, okay, yeah. Was that something, was the use of sound something that you knew from the concept stage that you wanted to accentuate all the way through to?
No, very much so. I mean, that was very clear. I mean, the original script, the world wasn't like that. The world outside of the chapel was a very grey, grim, Glaswegian kind of world. And it was really dull, and I thought, this is not the Glasgow I love. It's just, and that's what was written, and I just wanted to, first of all, make the world outside utopian and bright and bouncy, and people shopping and zipping around on their rollerblades, all this. And that Cohen was the only man out of sync with the world that existed. But the key thing was to start it in the chapel like that, with this quietness, the echoey footsteps, silence, and then open the door and all hell breaks loose. And because the idea was that it would become this attack, an oral as well as visual attack on him, just hammering him relentlessly, as the real world does to me when I'm in like the circus world. And that's exactly what we did. And so the sound is really important. I mean, for better or worse, I'm involved in literally every aspect, and that's the only way I know how to make movies. And so we spend a lot of time working on the sound, getting all the noises in, trying to work. I mean, when he opens that door, I mean, there's terrible saws cutting things in on frequencies that just hurt. So I just thought the audience should, for a moment, try to experience what Cohen is. And then the quietness of the chapel is wonderful, great relief, but it's also a rather empty place, a lonely place, and on it goes. So sound's very important.
Anybody else? Gentleman there, and then gentleman there.
Man wearing the Palestinian skirt.
You have no idea how cold it was in here during the film. Thank you very much. Thank you for being here. I have not a clue what I'm going to say in the review. I need to seriously think.
If you don't like it, just don't write the review.
I loved, I mean, it's very famous, back in the days of 12 Monkeys, the making of was called The Hamster Factor, and in this you have the rats. How did you get the rats? Are they just intuitive scavengers? And it's a recurring thing throughout the film. We keep seeing the rats.
Nature has to have its moment in the film. The rats, there was, I think, one in the original script, and I mean, I've fallen in love with rats. We had one in Time Bandits. I mean, and Ota, who gave us the ravens in Brothers Grimm, came up from Prague with his rats, his trained rats. And one of them was just absolutely brilliant. I mean, we saw the results. The other one, man, not so good. That one every time just did it. We throw the pizza in. I mean, you hire the best.
Okay.
Thank you.
To me, it was somewhere nature had to get into this film, the real world of animals, not just people in shower curtains.
Hello, I really enjoyed the film. I thought it was lovely, and I just wanted to ask if you felt that with a smaller budget, although you were limited in some ways, you said about sort of feeling like an independent again. Does that sort of free you up in that you have sort of even more creative control because no one's watching over your shoulder? or is it still really, really difficult?
I mean, I actually, in all my films, I've had creative control, so if they don't work, it's my fault. That's the important thing, but some have more executives hovering over you and bothering you, and this one didn't really. There's a really fine line of having a restricted budget and time, which can make you really be inventive, but too little can just make the whole process unbearable. And we just squeaked through on this one. I mean, for example, the beach. Here's how the space stuff, when they're floating in space, that's shot underwater at one end of the tank. Now at the other end, we had the beach beginning to be built, and it was going to take 3 days for the art department to finish it and raise the water level and everything for the shoot. Well, because of this tight schedule and the bad production planning, they had to do it overnight. So what do we do? Half the day is spent looking for a leaf blower to try to be able to get the sound working. There were no, I was told, no, there are no leaf blowers in Bucharest. Well, I thought I saw one there in the studio the other day out there when the guy was working. And you end up with days being wasted, the crews working incredibly long hours trying to keep up with the schedule. By the end, people were literally, and Nicola Pecorini, who shot it, during the scene about the sun, he was actually standing asleep in the tank and just leaning over there. People were so exhausted at the end. It was horrible. But on the other hand, people are so proud that their work is up there and they achieved something that in other circumstances they might not. So for me, it's to get these good people, work them until they drop, including myself, and kind of what it is for a lot of people is they discover, yeah, we can do it. Normally, you do it because you've got a lot of money, a lot of time. So in these circumstances, they produce work that they didn't think they were capable of, which is the good side of it. And they come out feeling, yeah, we survived. So, yeah, but I don't know. This was as close as I ever want to get to the budget being too small to do what we're trying to do.
What else?